Good morning. This is Talib Karim, and as you can see, I am without my co-founder, Brendan Nichols. He's under the weather, and let's keep Brendan in our prayers. So, a couple quick announcements I want to share with you, and that is the launch of Abe for Business. Abe for Business is the newest product that Abe has released to the market to provide small to medium-sized businesses a instant source of legal counsel, making it easier for you to find counsel and much more affordable for you to pay and retain counsel. We have flat fee products that are available for you to get things done pretty much. For example, if you want to start up your business that you have, or if you want to expand or grow your business and you want to jump on a call to talk with a lawyer about how to go from A to Z with that particular product, be it starting an Airbnb operation or going into a franchise business, or whether or not you should opt for a limited liability company or C Corp or an S Corp. We have products available for you. And since this is the beginning of the year coming up, a lot of folks have been thinking and putting off launching their new business up until just now. And Abe for Business is launched in time right for this particular occasion for you to be able to get done what you've always wanted to do. Second of all, I am here because today's episode is a discussion about what a lot of folks have probably been talking about now. 48 hours ago, you may know the Washington political establishment was in a bit of a turmoil because we had the vote by the United States House of Representatives to impeach the President of the United States. This is only the third time that such a vote for impeachment has happened for a president, although it's happened for other elected officials many more times, and we'll go into that as a bit of the discussion today. And it centers on what every lawyer or what every informed business person or informed person should know about the impeachment. So the law of impeachment. And again, we're not getting into the politics of the conversation or even the policy because that really goes to the politics. What we're going to be doing is talking about what are the legal implications and what you should know and what might make you a little bit more, conversational in discussions about this particular topic if you don't want to get into the politics of it. And some of you may want to get into the politics, and that's up to you. But we are going to give you some tips on how to at least come off as being well informed. All right. So a couple of things that you should know. The impeachment comes from the organic documents of the United States, and the particular organic document is the United States Constitution. There are about 4 provisions that actually talk about the impeachment. Article 2, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5 of the U.S. Constitution. Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6 and 7 of the U.S. Constitution. And Article 11, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution. And these provisions, and I'll mention specifically the first one, Article 2, Section 4, because you can see that the Founding Fathers didn't just, put together this impeachment process as a political tool. They sought to really make sure that there were no kingdoms created and no monarchies created. So you had a system of checks and balances. So again, what the impeachment language is from Article 2, Section 4 is that the Vice President, and all other civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on the impeachment for and conviction of either treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. And that is very operative. It was not to, punish people who, Congress might dislike, or people, particularly the president and the vice president, who may be following a particular policy that one party did not approve of. It was designed to prevent essentially abuse of powers in general, preventing, again, the snatching away of power that belonged to one branch. That is, for example, the executive branch snatching away power that might belong to Congress or might belong to the courts. And so that's really one of the big reasons why this particular provision was created or was incorporated into the United States Constitution. So that's one thing for you to know. Second of all, what are the steps for impeachment? So the steps are essentially this, and you have seen these played out on television, at least if you've been paying attention. And the first step is for an indictment, if you will. And an indictment in the context of a criminal case is brought by the prosecutor. And so in this case, the indictment is brought by the United States House of Representatives. They pass a resolution for impeachment. And the resolution may include one or more articles outlining why that particular officer, or for example, in this case, the president, should be impeached. And so if it's, again, voted on, and I'm sure you may not, some of you may not, but I'll let you know that the vote has to be by majority vote in the United States House of Representatives. And we're going to talk about the United States Senate in a minute. But for the United States House of Representatives, you need a majority vote. So that's one good thing to know. And in this case, there were a majority of the votes by the United States House of Representatives. We had, again, the United States House of Representatives, has approximately 423 members. And so a majority of those have to vote for impeachment. And in the context of this impeachment, there were actually Democrats who voted in opposition. So all the Republicans voted to oppose the impeachment, but there were actually 3 Democrats who voted against the articles of impeachment, and that's just something to note. Another thing to bring up is the question of what happens now that the articles of impeachment have been voted upon by the United States House of Representatives. As you may know, that in the news there was some discussion about Nancy Pelosi basically not wanting to transmit the articles of impeachment to the Senate. And other people are questioning, well, does the Senate have the right to basically not take up the impeachment once it comes over? Can they essentially do what is done in many cases, and that is essentially veto a bill by not taking it up over in the Senate, which happens all the time? And there are there is some precedent for that. So again, we'll go into a little bit more details about that, but again, that's another thing for you to know. But if all things go the way they are supposed to go here in Washington, which is never the case, but what would happen is that, again, the United States House of Representatives would forward the articles or the resolution that is passed by the majority of the members of the United States House of Representatives over to the United States Senate. And the United States Senate would then hold a trial. And the trial, in the context of what a trial consists of, as you know, you have a defendant, that being the president, and he would be represented by his counsel. More than likely would be those folks who are serving in White House counsel, but they may retain outside counsel, perhaps. As you know, the president is represented by outside counsel. currently, and so that could be the case. But nevertheless, you have outside counsel, or you have counsel that represents the president, the defendant. Then you have the prosecutor. In the case of the prosecutors, as I mentioned before, the indictment came from the United States House of Representatives. So in this case, the United States House of Representatives, which is controlled by the Democrats, they would appoint what they call managers, who would be tasked with the role of arguing in the context of whatever trial for the removal of the president. So he's already been indicted, or a vote for impeachment has passed the United States House of Representatives. So he's been impeached. But now the question is, would he be removed? And in order for him to be removed, he would have to be convicted, and the conviction would have to come through the United States Senate. So the Senate would have to vote on his conviction. So again, you have, on the one case, you have the defense side, which we said is the president and his counsel, and the other side is the prosecution, which is embodied by managers that are sent over from the United States House of Representatives and chosen by the leadership, which is now in control of being controlled by the Democratic Party, and particularly Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And so who are these managers? Likely they would be perhaps the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, for sure. And of course, that's the congressman from New York, Congressman Nadler. And also, more than likely, a member, the chair, rather, of the United States Intelligence Committee, which is Adam Schiff. And I'm going to mention Congressman Schiff because we've worked with him on another impeachment, and I'll mention that in a minute, where he was a manager in that case as well. So we'll talk. He has some experience in this. So those are the, and then there will probably be some other managers in the case that I was involved in. It involved, I think, about 4 managers, and so therefore it's likely to at least be 4, maybe more, over in the United States Senate involving the impeachment of the president. And so you have those parties. So you have, again, the defense and the prosecution. Now we know about those parties, but you also know that there's also 2 other important parties in the context of a trial, and that is the jurors. Who are the jurors? Well, the jurors in this case, and the people who are considered the jury, these people are the members of the United States Senate, all 100 of them. So again, as you know, you have 2 members of the Senate from every state in the United States, and as you know, D.C. is not a state, so that doesn't count, and as well as Puerto Rico and other territories of the United States, including Guam and the Virgin Islands. But the other states will have 2 representatives from each one of those states who are able to cast a vote. And as you know, the majority of the United States Senate is in the hands of the Republicans. So, how many people have to vote in favor of the conviction of each article? In this case, there are 2 articles that were passed out of the United States. The resolution that for impeachment included 2 articles. So you'd have to get not only a majority, which was the case in the vote for the United States Representatives, but you have to get a 2/3 majority. So again, out of 100, you have to have at least 66 voting in favor of an impeachment. And so again, you can see that's a very tall order, not impeachment, but for conviction of the president. So that's a very tall order, since again, that would include more than a dozen Republicans voting for the conviction, and in the United States House of Representatives, not one voted for the impeachment, and in fact, 3 Democrats sided with the president. So again, here in Washington, D.C., it's a foregone conclusion that there will probably be no conviction, but again, something for you to note. So then the question that you might lastly have is, who is the judge? Who's the one to make sure that the prosecution is doing its job and not going out of order, and the defense is, again, afforded all the rights that the president is entitled to under the United States Constitution. Who comes up with even the rules relating to how the proceeding will take place? Those are two different questions. So I'll start first with the first question. The judge. The judge, according to the United States Constitution, is, as you probably may know, the chief judge. According to Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6 and 7, the Senate has the sole power to try impeachment. However, the chief judge, currently Chief Judge John Roberts, shall preside. So that's the answer. The question, again, going back and included in that description, is the answer to the second question, and that is, how are the proceedings going to take place? Well, the United States Senate has the decision-making ability regarding what the rules for procedure. And so now you know who are the various parties, you know what the roles are. So I think you pretty much have everything you need to know. Now I want to go into two particular matters, and that is how many people have had impeachment proceedings started in the United States House of Representatives. And the answer to that is 60. So 60 people have been involved in impeachment proceedings. And out of that, 15 have been the subject of votes by the majority of the members of the United States House of Representatives. So 15 people. And out of that 15, 3 were sitting presidents. Do you know? I think you probably know the one that's just recently been impeached. That's President Donald Trump. The second one, as you might know also, especially those who have been in Washington, D.C. for as long as I have, is President Bill Clinton. I actually was an honors a member of the honors attorney program of the Federal Communications Commission at the time that the impeachment took place. So I remember that very vividly, being in the library, listening to CNN or C-SPAN at the time of some of the impeachment proceedings. And then the third one, the first impeachment, do you know who that was? Hint, Lincoln. Okay, can you guess it? That's right. Lincoln's vice president, who became the president after he was assassinated, and that's President Johnson. And as you may know, President Johnson was a Democrat, and President Lincoln was a Republican. And the Republicans, as you may know, were the party of the abolitionists, who wanted to bring about an end to slavery here in the United States. And President Andrew Johnson, he was a conciliator, or he was conciliatory towards the South. He was from Tennessee. He did not believe in the Reconstruction idea that was envisioned by the Republicans and that was being implemented by President Lincoln at the time of his assassination. And so he, again, wanted to appoint a particular person to kind of oversee the Reconstruction, and the United States House of Representatives disagreed with this appointment and passed a law to prevent him from removing a particular officer as the Secretary of War, and he chose to remove this person, and he was convicted, or he was not convicted, but he was impeached by the United States House of Representatives. This is the United States Senate. They refused to convict him by one vote, even though the United States House or the United States Senate was controlled by Republicans. So you can say that even when you have a majority of both the House and the Senate, it's difficult to actually remove a sitting president. I mentioned earlier that I was involved with an impeachment myself, not of one of the presidents. As I said, I was only an honors attorney participant program member when right out of law school when President Clinton, so I wasn't able to participate in that proceeding, but I was able to participate in a proceeding involving a federal judge, and this is none other than Gabriel Thomas Porteous, Jr., who was a former United States District Judge for the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Louisiana, and who served 16 years before being impeached from office in December of 2010. So in the fall or the summer of starting in the spring and then going into summer, I was appointed as the Chief Counsel for the United States House of Representatives member, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who was a senior member of the United States House of Representatives Judiciary Committee. And so she had been appointed to a task force that was created to investigate not just one judge, but two judges. And in this case, Judge Porteous was accused of violating his oath of office relating to bribes and perjury. This, as I recall, related to his gambling, and so he was seeking to pay off his gambling debt, from what I remember, and he took some bribes and then lied about it, essentially. And so that is what that case involved, and there were about 5 articles that were passed by the United States House of Representatives, and they were voted unanimously by both Republicans and Democrats. And so the managers who were appointed by the United States House of Representatives in this case were both Republican and Democrats. So this was a bipartisan vote on impeachment of this particular judge. And the managers that were involved in this case, I mentioned before, Adam Schiff, who at that time was a senior member of the United States House of Representatives Judiciary Committee, which was chaired by Congressman John Conyers, the late Congressman John Conyers, and we are still saddened by his loss. He did a lot for this nation, including single-handedly being the voice in Congress for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday that was passed into law and signed into law by a Republican, actually, as you might recall, and also leading the cause of investigation around reparations. I mean, and those are just two. I mean, you might also know, maybe you might not know, is that Congressman John Conyers was also the author of the legislation for single-payer Medicare for all. That was basically made popular by Bernie Sanders, but Congressman John Conyers originated it even before Bernie Sanders. In fact, he was the longest-serving member of Congress. But nevertheless, that is the kind of nitty-gritty about the impeachment. Again, there was a question that was asked earlier, and that was, can the Senate refuse to take up the call for impeachment? And the question to that is yes. They have the ability, the United States Senate, to basically either not have a trial, or basically make the trial merely a presentation of the impeachment and a vote by the members of the United States Senate. It can, in fact, recess and again, prevent the vote, because again, if the matter, let's say, is delayed until this time next year, so the second session of Congress will be starting in January. So at the end of the second session of Congress, which is in around December 20th of next year, 2020, if the vote on impeachment or the vote concerning the conviction has not been addressed by the United States Senate, then the matter will just essentially die, and Congress will have to reintroduce the resolution in the following Congress. But as you may know, there's going to be an election, and this may be a moot issue or it may not be a moot issue. So again, these are all the things that have to play out here in Washington, D.C. We thought that you might want to know about these issues from a legal perspective, so you can be informed in case your clients ask you what's going on, or in case someone around the water fountain or in the dinner conversation over the your holidays, they ask you about it. You can basically inform them in an intelligent way on an issue of law as opposed to an issue of policy or politics. So that's our gift to you. We hope that you enjoy it. And we, more importantly, hope that you take advantage of Abe for Business, a great platform that has the capability of really growing the economy. So many people have ideas that they want to launch into businesses, and they don't know how to do it, and they don't think that they can afford a lawyer to talk through the mechanics of getting done what they want to do. So be it, again, forming an agreement between you and your partner, shareholders agreement, a operating agreement, putting together articles of incorporation, all of these things being kind of starting blocks for building a company, you can now do through Abe. So we hope that you take advantage of it. That's abe.legal. And feel free to, basically leave some comments and ask some questions that we may bring up into the next conversation that we have. So for Abe, and again, hope my co-founder, Brendan Nichols, is feeling better. But I'll sign off for us both. This is Talib Karim, legal director and co-founder, signing off and wishing you all again, happy holidays. Take care. Ciao.